Fair.
Good morning.
Tell us your full name.
James Edward Fair Jr.
Okay.
But since my father passed, we don't use the junior anymore.
So where were you born, Mr. Fair?
I was born here in Anthony, Clark County
What neighborhood?
many years ago.
Not that many.
Many.
What neighborhood? Where was what?
I was actually born and raised here in Atherton Public Housing.
Okay.
Lived there throughout my school year here in the community.
What's public
and while
housing
I was in college, lived most of my time was spent at Broad Acres
Okay.
apartments located out there on the corner of Broad and Rock Spring, but also lived a short period of time in Parkview Homes community as well.
Okay. So you started out in Broad Acres.
Started out in Broad Acres.
Tell us what was Broad Acres like back then?
Growing up in Broad Acres, I found out over the years that it was a blessing for me to be in that community. As you all may, I'm sure Fred, you're aware that back there then, public housing was not looked down on, but it was looked upon as a good place to live because we had a number of things that other people didn't have. For an example, we had showers and things going on back there then that was nice warm place to live, and we had plenty of good neighbors that we could fellowship with and do things with. So I thoroughly enjoyed my experience in Broad Acres in a tight-knit community where neighbors looked out for each other, and you had that experience where people, didn't matter where you went to, you always was obedience to the adults there in the neighborhood. So if a lady caught you down in the project misbehaving, she would whip you and send you back up in the project. So it was a great experience growing up in Broad Acres, and I met many friends that I went to school with, and we have remained friends over the years.
Okay. And how long did you live at Broad Acres? About how old were you when you moved to Broad Acres?
Moved in Broad Acres early in elementary school,
Okay.
3rd or 4th grade.
That's when you moved there.
Right.
Okay.
And then we went on to stay there, as I indicated, up throughout my high school years, and then of course they had renovation going on, so families in Broad Acres had to some move to Parkview. So when I got out of college, I was looking at Parkview as a place to live.
Okay. Tell us about your parents, sisters and brothers as well, your family.
I'm the oldest of five children. There are 4 boys and 1 girl, and we have 2 of my brothers now no longer with us, they're deceased, but I have a sister and a brother now who still lives. Parents, mother was a maid, father was a janitor. He worked
And their
retired. James Fair was his name, and Irene Fair was her name, and my father worked most of the time at the J.C. Penney Company. In fact, he retired being a janitor at J.C. Penney Company downtown Athens at that time, and then my mother worked as a maid off and on for different persons as we grew up in Broad Acres.
Okay. And the names of your sisters and brothers?
The brother that's next to me is Bobby Fair. He's no longer with us. And then the one that's next to him is Charles Fair, and he's deceased. And my sister is Alice Fair. Then she was. She's living in Dallas, Texas now. And my youngest brother is William Fair. He lives in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania now.
Okay. And describe what the area was like, Athens, not only Broad Acres, but the community. What was?
Athens to me, because of my limited experience growing up, unfortunately, I didn't have an opportunity to travel a lot to different places. Of course, Atlanta and places, South Carolina and places like that was pretty much what I was exposed to. And some of that came about as a result of football, being involved in football in high school. But Athens to me was a great place to live. As I said, back there then, you had many outstanding individuals back there, both male and female. Believe it or not, some of the the great contributions that was made in our neighborhood was done by females, by women who stood up and made some things happen. So I enjoyed that experience. And the big part of that growing up was an opportunity where I went to school in this building here at Barney Harris, and we had teachers who really cared about you. Now, sometimes when they got the strap out, you didn't think that way, but for the most part, they really cared about you. They wanted you to learn and they wanted you to be successful. So it was a positive experience for me growing up here, because I had many role models besides my parents who insist that I be educated. You better get something in your head. So it was a great experience for me being a part of this community.
Okay. And where did you start school at?
Started school at, glad that it still exists today, West Broad Elementary School.
Tell us all about West Broad, what you remember about West Broad.
West Broad, again, was very positive because the teachers there was encouraging, they cared about you, and they were strong disciplinary too, although we're talking about ladies, but yet they kept you in line. There was several teachers I could call their names, and when they spoke, you listened. So it was a great experience going to West Broad. They prepared you for the other schools.
What else do you remember about the games you played, the activities that you participated in at that school?
Well, growing up there in Broad Acres, and of course you all know it's across the street primarily from Broad Acres. So a number of things that we participated in the community, we carried them over in school, and the teachers was encouraging. They encouraged us to do those things. So sports was a big part of my life growing up. We did a lot of things. Because basketball, football has always been popular. Little softball we played there. So just basic games like that. Leisure services, the recreation park department at that time had summer activities that they did there, and we got involved with that. They had things going on like they do today for kids to do when the school was out. So sports in general, we did those kind of things, and we, because of our influence of our parents, we had adopted a number of us. I could call Val Daniels and Murray and a bunch of my friends. We kind of took on a competitive attitude in school, so we competed with each other. Particularly, I remember well on the high school level, but we competed with each other at an early age, not just in sports, but also in the classroom.
Okay. And describe the school itself, the yards, that type of thing. What was it like? Most folks that I talk to about West Broad, they talk about May Day. Do you remember May Day and what that was like?
Yes, May Day and some of the other activities that the teachers allowed us to participate in was a great time. You look forward to those things. Anytime you can get out and kind of stretch yourself in fellowship with other classmates, it was a good experience. Enjoyed it, May Day. Enjoyed more participating when you got a chance to participate in those things, and you was told by your teachers and your peers when you did well with some of the activities. But they had things for you to do back there then in school. You had a number of things that you could participate in. Of course, May Day was one, and then they had honoring programs where they recognized students for achievement and had some little competitive things that you could also do as well.
Okay. When I asked you about your parents, I meant to ask you about, do you know anything about your grandparents?
Yes.
Tell me all
I do.
What you can remember about them.
Okay. Particular, well, let's talk about on my mother's side. Her mother, they came from Oglethorpe County and moved here, and her grandmother was a very strong disciplinary. She really, when she said something, she meant for you to do what she said. But she was very encouraging as well. And I remember one of the things that really convinced me I never wanted to cross her. I seen her kill a chicken. And she wrung that chicken neck. She took that knife, and she cut that neck off and put that chicken under the tub. And I looked at that and I said, wow, I never want to cross her with anything. But she was amazing woman, and she played a part in our life, babysit us on many occasions.
Did you say her name?
Alice Booker was her name.
Okay.
She was a wonderful lady. Tell you another experience we had with her. I used to see her when she would come back from picking cotton, and she said, "Yeah, I got my 200 today." And I said to myself, if that little short lady can pick, and this is when I was in middle school, can pick 200, I was, man, I probably could do 300 or 400.
Right.
And I kept saying to her, I said, "You gonna let me go?" And she said, "Oh, you can't. You won't like it out there." I said, "Yes, I will. Let me go." And she finally decided to let me go to pick cotton. So I don't need to tell you, I couldn't sleep that night. I was so excited about getting up the next morning to go pick cotton. So we went out into Oconee County, and we got there, and I can't wait to get to the cotton field. Told the guy, I wanted 2 bags. Give me 2 bags, put on my shoulder. I'm gonna pick. And I saw her, she would wrap herself up, her hair and everything would be wrapped up, and she would go down the road, and I said, oh shoot, I'm gonna pass her. And I got over there, and I went on out just picking. And about a couple hours later, I said to her, don't I need to weigh my cotton? She looked over there and she said, I don't think you got enough to weigh it this time. And I said, oh, come on. She said, no, just keep working. And I went and kept picking cotton, and finally it was time for lunch. And I said, I'm gonna weigh in. And I went over there and gave my bags to the man, and he shook his head. He said, have you been picking at all? So I learned from that experience that I did not want to pick any cotton. And needless to say, she got her 200 or 300, but I found out it's not as easy as it appears to be when you're going to go out there and pick cotton. In fact, I had the store would let you get honey buns and things like that. And I had already spent all of my money by the time we got through that day on buying honey buns and sodas in order to keep me going. So I didn't worry about going back to picking any cotton anymore. That was a great experience. Now on my father's side,